Hello, and welcome to Tuesday's Top Tips. My name is Alicia All. I'm founder of Level Up Score, and I'm your host here for Tuesday's Top Tip today. And we're talking about stop selling credit repair and start selling approval. So, how do we do that? What does that actually mean? We're going to dive into that. We're going to explore that, and hopefully, maybe it might change your perspective on how you currently do business. So again, thank you for being here today at Tuesday's Top Tips. I'm here every Tuesday at 12 noon, bringing you content that I think will help you scale and grow your business. And if there's anything that I can share that you think would really help you, please feel free to comment. And I look to do that in the future. So again, thank you for being here. We're going to jump into it. Here we go. So stop selling credit repair, start selling approval. And what does that mean? Your clients don't want better credit. They want to be approved for a loan. So let's talk about that real quickly. All right. So if your clients don't want better credit, they want approval. What does that mean? That means if they had bad credit and they can get the home loan, if that's what they wanted to get, then they would get it with bad credit. Right? If they could afford it with bad credit and they don't care about the interest rates, they're going to get the property, the home, or whatever they want with bad credit. The reason they might come to you is because they can't get it. They got denied. So what they really want is the approval, not the great credit scores, not the collection removed. And so that's what we're going to dive in today. And I think it will resonate with you too, because I can tell you right now, if you gave me the opportunity with low credit scores to go buy my first home, I would jump on that right now, because I know from my own experience that buying a home opens up opportunities for me that I couldn't have otherwise. That's a story I've told to many audiences that I've spoken in front of how I made my first $1 million. And it was from the opportunity of being able to buy my first home. So if I can do it with bad credit, I'm going to do it with bad credit, right? And so your clients don't want better credit. They want the approval. They want the opportunities that good credit can provide them. All right. So my analogy here is your score opens the door, approval gives the key. So the only reason why we actually even care about the credit score is really just the simple fact that by caring about the credit score, it opens the door to get a loan. So we know that loan officers generally have a minimum credit score to open the door, where we'll actually look at your credit profile. But it's everything inside that credit profile that actually gets the approval, which gives the key, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So thinking about this in this terms of your score opens the door, the approval gives the key, is what I'd like you to kind of think about as we move forward in this, in these slides that I'm going to share with you. So again, let's talk about this. So clients don't wake up thinking, hey, who can I call today to get this collection off my credit report? They really don't think about that unless they are told that that specific collection kept them from getting their home loan. They got denied for that specific collection, which is generally not the case. It's usually multiple things, but they're not waking up thinking that. They're waking up thinking, why did I get denied? What can I do to change this? How can I buy my first home? How can I get into a safe neighborhood for my kids? How can I buy a car so I can get to work? Right? Those are the things they're waking up to. Those are the things they're putting their head down on the pillow and they can't sleep because of, right? It's not the collection on the credit report. It's not even the credit score. It's the fact that what they have going on in their credit kept them from getting what they wanted. So it's about the approval, right? About the optimization of their credit so they can get the things that they need and want in their lives. So let's talk about this a little bit further. So I like to do a reality check real fast. Your high credit score does not equal an approval. Okay. So I've seen people with high credit scores get denied. I've seen people with low credit scores get approved, because approval is about the full picture, not just the numbers. We're going to talk about that today, but I also want to take this back. I've done a case study where we have multiple people who are working just on disputes. So we're just working on disputes. We're going to get all the negative things off their credit report. And in this group, we were very successful in getting almost all the negatives off of the credit report. And then I had another group that we didn't do any disputes for. We just did credit action plans through Level Up Score, and we helped them, guide them, follow that credit action plan. The group that got the negatives off the credit report still couldn't buy a home. The group that did not get any negative off the credit report because we did no disputes, we just optimized their credit from where they are to getting a home loan because that was their goal, and Level Up Score created that plan for that goal. They went and bought their home. That was a case study I did. And so it also is not about what's the negative things on your credit report. Getting those removed doesn't necessarily equal approval. I just had a coaching call with a gentleman a second ago, and we were actually diving in that. He started talking about that himself, and we kind of dived in that a little bit. But having negative credit on your credit report doesn't necessarily mean you can't get approved, right? Getting all the negatives off the credit report doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get approved. So we're looking at a lot of things as loan officers. And so some of those things obviously is the score. So the score opens the door, right? There is a minimum score requirement in lending. And so the score opens the door, but then we're going to look at DTI. We're looking at your history. Obviously, we're looking at stability. We're looking at overall risk, right? Lenders are asking questions like, is this person stable? Is this person risky? Can they actually repay this loan, right? If they're not prepared, if you're not preparing your clients for that and you're just doing disputes, then you might be missing out, because if this is what lenders are looking at, this is what lenders are thinking. Hey, yes, the score to get in the door, but the DTI, the history, the stability, the risk, if you're not preparing the client for that part of the process, then you're losing out for the client. And that's when the problem really lies. This is why you get complaints in your business, right? If you're working off it, I'm going to dispute things, and a person comes to you and says, hey, I'm trying to buy a house, I got denied. And you're like, oh, we'll dispute all these negative things. And then you do that job and they go to the lender, and the lender's like, I can get you approved. We have a DTI issue, or we have a history issue. We don't have enough history. We don't have enough loan accounts. We're not showing stability. We're showing high risk. We don't have a savings account, right? We don't have reserves. There's all kinds of things that we're looking at, right? Your rent history. We don't have a good rent history. Maybe your rent is $500 a month and you're trying to buy a house that's $2,000 a month, right? So we got payment shock there. So all of those things, if you're not preparing the client for that, then you're losing out. And so my thought for you today is to understand that credit repair does not necessarily equate to someone getting approved. So if you're working with people, I always say to have a successful business and to keep your business, best you get people to the promised land. So if you have people come in, hey, I want to work with you because I want to buy a home. And then you're putting your head on the pillow, go at night, thinking about all the disputes you're going to do for them. And you're not thinking about all the things that actually equate to whether or not they're going to get a home loan. You're doing a disservice for them, and shame on you for taking their money, because that's not what they asked you to do. They didn't ask you to dispute things. You may have suggested that they dispute things because you're the authority to them of whether or not they can get approved. But shame on you if that's what you're doing, because you're not helping them get approved. So if you're going to be a credit professional, that you want to stay in the game, you want to be a strategist, you want to help people get to their goal. If I come to you and I say, I want to buy a house, best you get me there, right? So that you can keep the referrals that might be coming in from loan officers and different professionals, right? But also so that you can keep your clients happy and that you can keep them for the longevity and you can become that trusted advisor. Disputes aren't going to do that, guys. So if that's where you're laying your head down at night, think about all the disputes you're going to do. You're doing your own client a disservice, and you shouldn't take their money. Okay. And so think about what lenders are actually looking for. I highly recommend you looking at that. So people don't buy disputes, they buy results. There are a lot of people in the credit space whom I love dearly who are talking about this like crazy right now. But it's so true. They don't buy disputes. So why, as credit professionals, if I go into any credit professional community group, all I see is how do you dispute this and how do you dispute this and how do you dispute that? If disputes don't help someone necessarily get to their goal, why is that the question we're asking? Why is the question we're asking, what is the best dispute software out there, if that's not what's actually going to get someone to their goal? Now, I want to be very clear here. I want to be very honest. Disputes are necessary sometimes. Disputes are necessary lots of times, but that's not where we're laying our head on. That's not where we're thinking at night how we're going to do disputes for this person who wants to buy a home. We need to have a plan that's driven by what lenders actually need to see to get them approved, right? If you don't know that, interview some loan officers, right? Of course, I use Level Up Score. That's something that I created and founded because I am a loan officer. And I knew what my clients needed, and so that I produced that software to create that. We do goals such as buying a home, buying a car, just optimizing credit so they can get out of debt. And then we also have PG business funding. So we are very goal-based. But people aren't buying disputes, guys. So stop putting you're hanging your coat on that. Like, that's not what you should be. That's a tool that you use to help them. Yes. If someone says, hey, I have fraud, this account's not mine, you're going to help get that removed from their credit report. But if someone says this account is mine and you're trying to find every loophole you can to get that off the credit report, knowing full well that that doesn't actually relieve them of the debt, shame on you. Shame on you, because they don't know that and they don't expect the recourse that could happen from you initiating that dispute. Let's be honest, guys, if you don't know this, as soon as you make that dispute, you have opened up the bag of worms, right? So you're opening up possible litigation. You're opening up all of these things. And do you know how to handle that? So I advise you to think about that. Think about how you're doing your business. And is it based on disputes? If it is, then you need to change it. That's a tool that you may or may not need to use, right? So the idea here is kind of similar to a personal trainer. If you came to me to lose 10 pounds, I'm going to analyze your situation. I'm going to analyze, okay, I'm going to look at your weight. I'm going to take your measurements. I'm going to ask you what you eat, when you eat, how much you eat, when you go to bed, when you wake up. Do you have a sedentary job or do you have an active job? All of those things are going to come out as questions that I'm going to ask you so that I can properly create a plan for you so that you can lose those 10 pounds. And if I'm good at this, then you will lose the 10 pounds, barring that you follow the plan. And then I get to keep my job, right? And so, but as a personal trainer, I'm not actually doing the work for the person. I'm creating the plan. Most people don't need a lot from us. What they do need is they have a goal and they have no clue how to get there. That's what your job is. That's what my job is to help a person who has a goal get to that goal. So I've talked about this a million times, but niching down, having your specialty. Mine was first-time home buyer. So of course, if someone came to me, my job was to help them get their first home. My job is to help them get their first home. My job wasn't disputes, right? And so you can charge a higher price because you're offering something bigger and better to them, right? You're not relying on your business of whether or not a negative item falls off or doesn't, or falls off and comes back on, or now you disputed it and now they have a complaint for judgment, right? You get to actually rely on a plan for the consumer and help and facilitate them getting to that plan, just like a personal trainer. Come to me. I'm going to give you the plan. You're going to do the work. I'm going to motivate you. I'm going to answer questions. I'm going to support you. I certainly am not lifting the weights for you, and I'm not hand feeding you, right? And so think about that when you're thinking about your own job. And then by doing that, you actually empower the consumer for their own good, and they're learning about their own credit. So let's talk about this for a second, because I love this. If they could get approved, they wouldn't need you. And so what I like to say on this is that if someone had 15 collections on their credit report, but they can still get approved for their home loan, they don't care about the collections on their credit report. They don't care. So if that's what you're selling, you're losing out because they don't care. You know, I've been in the credit space for a long time, and I remember conversations where I'd be talking to someone and there might have been an issue on their credit report that had to be resolved. I'm like, hey, listen, you have this collection on your credit report. We have to resolve it in order to get approved for this home loan. And they would say to me, well, then I'm not getting a home loan because I'm not resolving that debt. I'm really mad about that debt, right? Okay. So if that's true in that space, it's even more true in the space of, hey, if I can get approved and that collection is still on there, I don't need you, right? And so if we're selling on collection removals and things like that, we're already behind, right? So thinking about that as well. All right. The problem, disputes do not equal outcomes. You need to be selling the outcome to the consumer. What are they actually getting from you? What is the main priority that they're getting from you? Disputes are tools in our toolbox, just like we have lots of other tools. We have affiliate resources or tools. Our credit monitoring is a tool, right? All of these things are tools, but they are not the thing. The thing is the outcome. Do we have a system and a journey for the consumers to get to their big goal? That's what our job is to do. And so, so I just encourage you to think about that. If your business is focused on disputes, maybe there's a better way. All right, so let's think about that. Disputes are a tool, not a strategy. Sometimes disputes are needed. This is very fair. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes the solution is paying down debt, fixing utilization, adjusting the debt to income ratio. Maybe they got to get a second job to do all this. Maybe they have to get out of debt to do all this. Maybe they're building accounts, right? But if it all starts with you selling disputes, then that's all you can offer. What else are you offering, right? And so think about that. Now let's look at the gap. No plan equals no progress. And this is for anything. I'm not talking just about buying a home. If I want to lose 10 pounds and I have no plan, the idea that I actually will lose the 10 pounds is probably not going to happen, right? So having a plan is the super important part of anyone's journey on any goal that they're trying to reach, right? And that's why people go to personal trainers. Not because a personal trainer can take a magic wand and say, you lost 10 pounds, but that the personal trainer has expert knowledge on what it takes to get there. What they can look at that person and ask those right questions and then put a plan together for them to get those 10 pounds off that they want, or to reshape their body, or whatever it is, get on stage for a bikini model, whatever that is, right? But there's a plan involved. If I want to buy my beach house, someone's going to sell me my beach house. So I'm challenging one of you on this live, see if you can sell me my beach house. But if I want to buy my beach house, then I need a plan on how I can do that, especially if it's a goal that I'm really unsure of how it's even possible. And think about it from your consumer's perspective. If they're going to a lender and they get denied, the lender's going to give them a couple of generic things, which are good. Hopefully they look at those of what they need to do to get in position to buy a home. But oftentimes the lender hasn't even looked at the full picture to figure out what they actually need to do, because lenders don't get paid unless a deal closes. So they're moving on to the next one. They're not spending a lot of time putting a plan together. That's where you come in. You can do that because they're going to pay you to put that together. You're going to be able to understand them a little bit more. You can ask them how much they make so you can analyze their debt to income ratio. Of course, Level Up Score does that for you. And so you can look at those things that the loan officer probably didn't even look for. And now you become this very strategic partner in the process of a person getting to their goal. And that's your job. The gap is that progress usually doesn't happen because there's no plan. And of course, we know Level Up Score creates those plans. So it's really, really easy. You can go from being credit repair to being approval strategist real easy, because you don't even have to know all the things. If you run that client through Level Up Score, you can have the plan already generated for you instantaneously so that you don't have to do all the work in case you don't know, right? And of course, I've had people who've been in the business for many, many years who come to me and they say, hey, Allie, I didn't know that some of the things that Level Up Score says to do is even a thing, right? And so that's also another benefit to having software that does know. So what do clients want? They want a clear path. If I want to reach my goal to buy a house, I want to know, what do I need to do? Me personally, not everybody, because everybody has a different story, but me personally, if you look at my position, what do I need to do to get prepared to buy a home? Can you support me? Can you tell me what to do? Can you tell me what's first, next, and so on and so forth, so I can get to that goal? It takes a lot of weight off a person's shoulders when they just know what they need to do. A lot of weight. That's probably the number one thing people say to me once they get my Level Up Score action plan, is they'll say something like, I feel like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. Now, they haven't even done anything yet, but the simple fact that they have a clear path, they know where they need to go, they can check it off, they can complete the list. And if they have full trust in you, that by them going through that path that you've laid out for them, that journey that you laid out for them will get them to their goal, then they're going to feel like this huge weight is just lifted off their shoulders. And there's a new life and light inside of them. And then plans aren't always easy. There can be some hard things that need to be done on a plan. But then that's where you stand as that accountability partner to help that person. So they want to know, where am I? Where am I? I'm denied for a loan. Where am I? Am I that far off? Where am I? What do I need to do? Right? How do I get to that goal? And by them knowing that, there's just a new life that takes place inside of a consumer. So what is your role? Your role, you are a strategy partner. That's what you are. Or in the case of a personal trainer is a personal trainer. They're helping people, they're coaching, they're mentoring, they're supporting. That's your role. It's not to do all the things. It's to empower them to do the right things in the right order that they need in order to reach their big goal. That's the value you bring. as a credit strategist or strategy partner or borrower readiness partner, or whatever you want to call yourself. Just don't call yourself credit repair, because you're more than that. If you're creating plans and you're helping people to get towards big goals and you're not just wrapping your finger around just, I'm going to do disputes, then you're a strategist for these people, right? So you are more than credit repair. Stop putting credit repair on your name tag. It is not who you are, right? We are strategists. We're helping people get to big goals. And that is an important role that we get to have. And it's such a rewarding role to really help someone get to their goal, get them to what I like to call the promised land. The real problem for most organizations is there's no system, there's no structure, and simply no scalability, because a lot of them wrap around the tool. I'm going to do disputes. I'm going to figure out how to do disputes so good, which, by the way, that golden dispute letter that you have works for a little while and then it stops working, right? Things change. The credit bureaus get used to it, whatever that might be. So then you're constantly having to find that golden letter when maybe you didn't even have to do a letter at all. That's what I'm challenging you to think about. Okay, strategy does require structure. Now, luckily, you have Level Up Score, so you can run your client through Level Up Score. It's going to create that plan. There's your structure. You're going to be their accountability partner, their support person, the person that they can ask questions to guide them, to cheer them up, right? Be their cheerleader as they work towards their big goal. And that's the transition that I'm asking all of us to take. So here's where Level Up Score comes in. Level Up Score is built for that, right? Credit report comes in, we analyze it based on the consumer's goal, and we create an action plan specifically for that person's goal. So we're not just looking at how high can we get the credit score, because that's not always going to do it. Remember, I told you earlier in this live that a high credit score doesn't necessarily equal approval. We're looking at what do lenders actually need to see on this credit profile and the consumer profile in general, like their financial stability, their financial foundation. And so Level Up Score is looking at all of those pieces, including analyzing DTI, so that we can get these people in a position that they can actually buy, right? And so that is our job as a strategist. And that's how Level Up Score can help you do that without a lot of work from you. You can automate the entire process. I like to say that I work on my clients less than 5 minutes per client per month. I don't know how long you're doing, but I'm just going to imagine. Let's see, because I've done it before. 45-minute consultation call to get them excited, to get them to hopefully work with you. And then you're going to do another call with that, let's say 15 to 30 minutes to show them what they need to do, what you're going to do. And then let's see, every month you're going to do at least a 30-minute call with them to talk about where they're at and what they need to do. And then they're going to ask to reschedule that because they were in McDonald's and they really didn't hear you, right? Why don't we automate that entire process? So meet me on Wednesday at 5 p.m. I'll show you how to do it the way that I do it, automating everything so that I can deliver an action plan, approval, you can call it the approval roadmaps, clear next steps, client visibility, all wrapped up in one, but I can also automate that entire process. So remember, the score opens the door. Level Up Score helps give the key to that loan approval. And results, clarity equals conversions, clarity equals retention. So you're giving them that clear path up front. It's transparent. It's not you doing stuff in the background and they're like, I wonder if she's working on my file this month. Because you know, if they don't see that score go up, they're canceling with you if you're not transparent about the journey and the responsibilities they play in this whole part of the process. And so you can do that very clearly with Level Up Score. I'd love for you to join me on Wednesday again. It's 5 p.m. Eastern time. I'll show you how I have done it to automate my business, spend 5 minutes or less per client per month. But I bet I deliver more value than most credit professionals in that short amount of time. And I do it the way that my clients want it to be done. And I can show you that as well. So I'm really excited. This QR code will take you to the registration for the strategy session on Wednesday. That's tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Love to see you there. Certainly want to pour into you. Strategy sessions, how they go is we just talk. I figure out who's in the audience, what you guys need from me, and then we go from there. So my goal for you at this point in time is I invite you to stop selling credit repair and start selling approvals. Thank you for being here on Tuesday's Top Tips. I'll see you next week at 12 noon every Tuesday for Tuesday's Top Tips. Thank you.